Hey, I'm Alex Big Blue, and this is my top 10 Secret Defenders. So, I'll be ranking my personal favorite Secret Defenders members from 10 all the way up to number 1. And so, by the way, the Secret Defenders is an outstandingly cool series that you should definitely check out and read if you haven't already. It's not super popular, it is a group of characters that's kind of randomly assorted every few issues, from Doctor Strange with his magic stuff tells him who to pick, or other ways later on. There's a few other leaders too. But yeah, it's just like kind of a who's who, kind of all star type of lineup series. It's a great one to read for sure, and I highly recommend it. But nonetheless, let's get right into it. At number 10, Spider Woman, Julia Carpenter. So, Spider Woman is one of the characters that I like a ton, and one of my favorite women characters that keeps gaining higher and higher on my lists. I, for one, love her costume. It looks like kind of like a female Venom costume, which I've always loved her look for that reason. Just really awesome. And I read a bunch of her miniseries and her in other West Coast Avengers and other books. I also have a first appearance, thankfully. It's one of the cooler ones I've got of that as well. And she has a daughter, and their relationship is always something that really stands out. And her as a character, I always really root for. At number 9, Nova. So Nova is a character that I've started to like a ton because of him, especially in New Warriors, which is one of my favorite comic book runs. It's really pretty high up there, especially among the team ones, which I always kind of drawn to anyways. But yeah, Nova is a really kind of brash and cool type of character, and he does a lot of the stuff that you would think you would do in that situation, which is one of the things I find interesting about him as well, or at least I do. And his look and his powers are kind of iconic, as he is quite a bit of an older character at this point, technically. And yeah, whenever he shows up in crossovers with Spider-Man or anybody else, I've always been really interested as well. At number 8, Namorita. So she's a character that I've really started to like a ton in recent years. The New Warriors, like I said, is one of my favorite series. And she might be my favorite of that original group of them. She's certainly probably one or two. And also, besides that, she's a great character because she is an Atlantean and kin to Namor, of course. Her looks are striking. Her morals and like values are extremely great. I think she's one of the better ones on that. She's also kind of got like the warrior spirit and kind of attitude. Yeah, she's just a great character that I really like a lot. At number 7, Darkhawk. So Darkhawk is one of the characters that I've started reading the last about 10 years or something like that and started collecting because he showed up in a Venom, or in a book that had Venom on the cover that was his book. And ever since then, I've been very interested in him as a character, and I'm trying to collect the entire big run. I've got a whole bunch of it too. And I've read a bunch of his stories from 1 onward and some of the other ones later on as well. And yeah, I just really like him a lot as a character. He's a younger guy, Chris, of course, Powell, trying to kind of do sort of like Spider-Man in a way where he's a younger guy trying to deal with life but also be a hero, reluctantly maybe. And yeah, I think he's great. I really like that series. Number 6, Silver Surfer. So he's always really captured my imagination with his space adventures in a way that most other series I love don't, because he does all kinds of crazy stuff in space. It's kind of almost reminiscent of Star Trek and Star Wars mixed up a little bit, like at times, different issues. But yeah, anyways, I love Silver Surfer. He's extremely powerful and has crazy, unique abilities because of the power cosmic that's within him. And yeah, his look is iconic, all silver, and he's on a surfboard, which is really cool and different too. At number 5, Wolverine. Wolverine is kind of the perfect archetype, I think, of the kind of tortured, brooding anti-hero. And I've really always loved him a lot ever since I saw him on the X-Men and in other toys and media and stuff as a really small child in the early 90s. But yeah, I love Wolverine. He's a great character for all of his powers and his backstory and everything else. I've always really dug him a lot, and I know everybody else pretty much does too. At number 4, Scarlet Witch. Wanda has always been a favorite of mine for a long time, ever since the 90s, but I've really gotten to read more of her in it since then, and that's why she's really risen up the ranks. And also, I like the WandaVision show and her in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness too. I've really liked, even whether or not it's been the way I would have portrayed her at first or not, it's debatable, but I really like her a lot as a character in those as well. And yeah, she's just a great comic character with cool powers and one of the best costumes, in my opinion, of the female and Marvel as well, of all the women pretty much. But yeah, I really love her a lot as a character. At number 3, Sleepwalker. Sleepwalker has fastly became one of my favorite characters. I absolutely love his comic book series. I think it's one of the most underrated series there are, period. And I also think the idea for him is so great because it's basically like, what if Freddy Krueger was a superhero, but but he was like also looks like an alien, and he's like, super heroic and helpful and everything like that. So it's almost the antithesis of him, like, or the opposite, I guess, in general, in that way. But yeah, I really love Sleepwalker. It's such a great series, and he's an awesome character. He looks extremely cool. He's really powerful. And number two, Captain America. One of my absolute favorite comic book characters in general, and third overall, by the way, in that, in case you're wondering. I think he is one of the best characters overall in general because he's kind of like what if Good Morals was a person, but also he tries to be practical and heroic with that in mind, and he really stands up for what he believes in, and he's willing to sacrifice himself if need be, and he really always tries to do what's good and protect everybody. But he's also really cool and always comes off as such to me as well. So I don't think that at all nullifies any of the good things about him. And also, besides that, like I said, his costume is iconic. He is a great leader of the Avengers, maybe the best comic book leader. You could definitely make that argument. I might would. And he's also absolutely peak in the movies as well, by the way. I didn't want to leave that out. Number one, Spider-Man. So Spider-Man, I think, might be the coolest character of all time, and if he's not, he's certainly there with anybody else. There's a handful of those guys you would all put together, and he's definitely one of them. I think his costume is probably the most colorful, iconic one ever. Maybe most iconic one ever anyways. That one and Batman, so the other ones would be interesting argument, back and forth. But his powers is so cool, of course, like all the spider stuff. And I think the main thing that draws everybody to him, including myself, is the fact that Peter Parker goes through things like a normal person. He has a lot of issues. He's trying to get through life. And I think his relationships with all the other characters in his life really matters a lot. And that's always been something that stands out for him and to them both. It makes it great. And his villains are absolutely great. And the inner workings with them and him is always great as well. And yeah, I just love Spider-Man. Everything he's ever done pretty much has been great. And ever since the early 90s when I read that miniseries with him in it, as well as saw the Amazing the animated series of Spider-Man then as well, I've always loved him since then. He's been one of my favorites. I'm Alex Blue. Thank you guys so much for watching, Scotty.